Welcome to our world of discovery and adventure. This channel is all about exploring the unknown, explaining the incredible, and revealing the truth behind the most fascinating topics on Earth. If you love learning something new every day, you're in the right place. Now we explore, explain, unearthing the Silk Road's hidden civilizations.
Across the shifting sands of Central Asia, beneath the scorched breath of desert winds and the shadows of towering mountain passes, lies the ghostly trace of one of humanity's most extraordinary creations, the Silk Road. It was not a single road, nor a neatly drawn line on an ancient map. It was a vast network, a living artery pulsing across continents, breathing life into forgotten kingdoms, fusing east and west in a dance of culture, wealth, and wonder. Today, as archaeologists brush dust from buried relics and historians retrace the paths of long-vanished caravans, the Silk Road reveals its deepest secret, the hidden civilizations that flourished in its embrace, then vanished like mirages into time. The story of the Silk Road begins not with silk, but with survival. Thousands of years ago, long before the name Silk Road was ever spoken, human beings sought connection. From the fertile valleys of China to the dry steppes of Central Asia, small bands of traders, nomads, and dreamers crossed impossible landscapes to exchange what they had for what they needed. Out of this instinct for connection was born a web of trade routes that would soon reshape the ancient world. Yet the Silk Road was never merely about commerce. It was the bloodstream of civilization itself, carrying ideas, religions, technologies, and cultures across vast distances. In the 2nd century BCE, during the reign of China's Han Dynasty, the world began to shrink. Emperor Wu of Han, determined to expand his empire's influence, sent an emissary named Zhang Xian westward, a mission that would forever alter history. Zhang Xian's journey was perilous, winding through deserts, mountain passes, and territories ruled by hostile tribes. Yet when he returned more than a decade later, battered but alive, he brought tales of mighty kingdoms to the west, lands of horses, jade, and strange customs. His report sparked division in the emperor's mind, a pathway stretching from China to the unknown, linking the Far East to distant civilizations beyond the horizon. Thus began the birth of what would later be known as the Silk Road, a name coined centuries later by the German geographer Ferdinand von Richthofen in the 19th century, but whose legacy had already shaped millennia of history. The Silk Road was not just one path, it was a labyrinth of routes, each winding through different terrains and climates. In the east, the road began at Chang'an, modern-day Xi'an, the heart of imperial China, where silk, lacquerware, and porcelain were first loaded onto caravans. From there, traders set out across the treacherous Gansu corridor, a narrow passage hemmed by mountains and desert, leading into the Taklamakan, one of the most unforgiving deserts on Earth. To the north, a route skirted the Tian Shan Mountains. To the south, another traced the edges of the Kunlun Range. These roads converged again in the oases of Central Asia, where hidden civilizations thrived in the shelter of fertile valleys, small, radiant worlds sustained by water and trade.
The geography of the Silk Road was both its blessing and its curse. The travelers who dared to cross it faced nature's harshest trials, searing heat by day, freezing cold by night, and endless dunes stretching into nothingness. Yet it was precisely this brutal landscape that protected the secrets of the road's hidden kingdoms. Places like Lulan, Naya, and Hotan blossomed in isolation, their wealth drawn from the caravans that passed through, carrying silk, spices, glassware, and gold. Their rulers grew powerful, their artisans skilled, their religions diverse, until the sands reclaimed them, leaving behind only ruins, whispers, and the faint scent of forgotten grandeur. In the earliest centuries of the Silk Road's history, trade was more than transaction, it was transformation. From China came silk, that shimmering thread of imperial luxury. To the west traveled jade and lacquer, while in return came horses from Fergana, glassware from Rome, and wool from Persia. Along with goods came ideas, Buddhism journeyed from India to China, Zoroastrianism and Christianity followed in later centuries, and with them came stories, art, and architecture. The Silk Road became the first true information highway of the ancient world. Yet beneath the grand sweep of history were the countless individual lives that animated it. The caravan leaders who braved the desert winds, the monks who carried scrolls and scriptures, the artisans who traded their craft for survival, and the nomads who guided travelers through shifting sands. Their footprints, now buried beneath centuries of dust, tell a story not of empires, but of people, of resilience, curiosity, and the eternal quest for connection. Imagine the sight of a caravan leaving Chang'an at dawn. The jingling of camel bells, the scent of incense and sandalwood, the gleam of silk banners fluttering in the morning light. Dozens of camels laden with cargo stretch in a long line across the horizon. The merchants, wrapped in layers of cloth to shield themselves from the desert sun, whisper prayers to the gods of protection. Ahead lies thousands of miles of uncertainty, but also fortune beyond a measure. Behind them, the bustling markets of China's capital fade into memory. Ahead lies the unknown. As the caravans journeyed west, they passed through the Hexi Corridor, a crucial artery where Chinese civilization met the wilderness of Central Asia. This narrow strip of fertile land, flanked by the Kilimanjaro Mountains to the south and the Gobi Desert to the north, became a lifeline for travelers. Here rose fortified garrisons, watchtowers, and way stations, the first signs of China's vast defense network known as the Great Wall. Beyond the wall, the Silk Road began to unravel into many strands, threading through oasis cities that glowed like jewels amid the sands. One of the earliest and most mysterious of these kingdoms was Lulan, once a thriving oasis at the edge of the Lop Nord Desert. Lulan was a crossroads of cultures, Chinese, Indian, Persian, and Hellenistic influences blending into something unique. Archaeological discoveries there reveal a world of sophistication, manuscripts written in multiple languages, fine textiles, and artifacts that hint at complex spiritual beliefs. Yet by the 4th century CE, Lulan vanished, swallowed by the desert, abandoned as the waters of the Tarim River shifted and the land turned to dust. Today, all that remains are skeletal ruins and the haunting silence of a civilization lost to time.
Further west, beyond the Tarim Basin, lay the Kingdom of Khotan, another oasis realm that rose to prominence between the 2nd century BCE and the 10th century CE. Khotan was famed for its jade, that luminous green stone so prized by Chinese emperors that they believed it embodied virtue itself. The city's prosperity was built on trade, but its soul was shaped by Buddhism. Monks from India passed through Khotan on their way east, bringing sacred texts and teachings that would take root in China and beyond. In its temples, one could hear prayers in Sanskrit, Chinese, and Tibetan, a chorus of devotion that echoed across cultures. Khotan became a sanctuary of learning and spirituality, a beacon of light in the desert night. Meanwhile, the western edges of the Silk Road stretched into lands that would one day become Iran, Mesopotamia, and the Roman Empire. Here, traders from the east encountered the bustling ports of the Mediterranean, where goods from as far as India and China were exchanged for Roman silver and glass. The Silk Road was no longer just a trade route. It had become the spine of a global network, linking the ancient world from the Pacific to the Atlantic. But while history remembers the empires, Han, Parthia, and Rome, it often forgets the smaller civilizations that made the road possible. These were the silent custodians of the Silk Road, the oasis dwellers, nomadic tribes, and desert kingdoms that provided rest, food, and water to the weary travelers. Without them, the Silk Road could not have survived. Their towns were the lifeblood of the journey, their markets the meeting points of worlds. As centuries passed, the Silk Road evolved. Empires rose and fell, religions spread and mingled. The Han gave way to the Tang dynasty, whose golden age brought new waves of prosperity to the trade routes. Under Tang rule, Chang'an became the most cosmopolitan city on earth, home to merchants from Arabia, Persia, India, and Byzantium. The city streets echoed with a symphony of languages. Its temples welcomed worshippers of many faiths.
In this melting pot, the Silk Road's hidden civilizations found their greatest expression, each contributing to a mosaic of human ingenuity that would shape the course of history. And yet, even as the Silk Road reached its zenith, the seeds of its decline were already being sown. The shifting sands that had once protected its cities began to encroach upon them. Rivers dried up, trade routes shifted, and the relentless march of time erased what human hands had built. The hidden civilizations that had thrived for centuries began to fade, their names surviving only in ancient manuscripts and half-buried ruins. Today, as archaeologists unearth the remnants of these lost worlds, the Silk Road once again whispers its story of courage and ambition, of discovery and decay. The cracked walls of Lolan, the faded murals of Khotan, the weathered stones of Nia, each is a page in the great chronicle of human civilization. They remind us that history is not just written in books, but carved into the earth itself. In the end, the Silk Road was more than a network of trade. It was a bridge between peoples, between faiths, between the seen and the unseen. It carried not only silk and spices, but also dreams, carried not only merchants, but also pilgrims, carried not only wealth, but also wisdom. And though its cities have fallen silent, their spirit endures, in the shared heritage of the world, in the blending of East and West, and in the eternal human desire to connect. As the desert wind sweeps over the ruins, one can almost hear the echoes of the past, the creak of wagon wheels, the call of traders, the chanting of monks, the laughter of children in markets long gone. Beneath the endless sky, the Silk Road still lives, not as a path of sand and stone, but as a memory of what humanity once was and what it can be again.
The wind sighs across the dunes of the Taklamakan, as if whispering the stories of those who once called this place home. Beneath that sea of golden sand lies the dust of empires, cities that shone like jewels along the Silk Road, then vanished, leaving behind only fragments of pottery, wooden tablets, and faded murals. To walk here is to walk upon the bones of forgotten civilizations, each one a chapter in the hidden history of human endurance. When archaeologists first arrived in this desolate wilderness at the turn of the 20th century, they found what ancient travelers could only dream of, ghost towns preserved by the dry desert air. From the eroded walls of Naya to the haunting ruins of Miran and the frescoed caves of Dunhuang, these remnants told of a world that had once thrived where now there is only silence. In the heart of the Tarim Basin, surrounded by the towering Tian Shan and Kunlun ranges, the kingdom of Naya once flourished. The early Chinese records called it Jingjue, a small oasis state that acted as a vital stop along the southern route of the Silk Road. Today, its remains lie buried beneath centuries of sand. But when explorers like Sir Orlstein unearthed its relics, the ancient city seemed to awaken once more. Among the wind-carved ruins, Stein discovered wooden tablets inscribed in the Kharosthi script, a language once used in Gandhara, far to the southwest in present-day Pakistan and Afghanistan. These documents revealed a society surprisingly advanced and cosmopolitan, with legal systems, taxation, marriage contracts, and property deeds. The people of Naya, it seemed, had built a world balanced between order and adaptation, sustained by the life-giving waters that trickled down from the nearby mountains. Yet the most striking discovery was not written in ink, but woven in cloth. Fragments of silk embroidered with intricate patterns hinted at the wealth and refinement of a people who sat at the crossroads of East and West. In one tomb, a young woman's body lay wrapped in textiles of brilliant color, a silent testimony to beauty, preserved by the desert's arid breath. Her face, serene and lifelike, bore features that seemed both Eastern and Western, a reflection of the cultural blending that defined the Silk Road itself. As Naya prospered, it became a resting place for merchants journeying between Khotan and Dunhuang. Caravans stopped here to rest their camels, exchange goods, and share news of the world beyond the dunes.
Imagine the scene: flickering torches illuminating tents of silk, the laughter of traders mingling with the scent of roasted lamb, the clink of bronze coins changing hands. The night wind would carry music across the desert, melodies played on lutes and flutes that once echoed in the courts of Persia and India.
But prosperity in the desert was fragile. The rivers that fed Naya's fields began to dry, shifting course with the slow violence of time. The once fertile oasis shrank, its lifeblood consumed by the encroaching sands. One by one, the wells failed, the orchards withered, and the people departed, leaving behind their homes, their tools, their dreams. Within a few generations, Naya disappeared, swallowed whole by the Taklamakan. To the northwest of Naya lay Miran, another oasis kingdom that mirrored the fate of its neighbor. Founded near the ancient Lop Nor Lake, Miran was a center of Buddhism during the 1st centuries CE. Here, art and faith flourished under the patronage of kings who welcomed monks from India, craftsmen from Persia, and envoys from China. The ruins of Miran still bear the traces of this spiritual flowering: fragments of stucco sculptures, murals of radiant Buddhas, and the remnants of a monastery that once drew pilgrims from across Asia. When the British archaeologist Mark Orlstein uncovered Miran's Buddhist monastery in 1906, he was stunned by what he found. The wall paintings bore unmistakable Greco-Roman influences, figures with wavy hair and halos reminiscent of Mediterranean saints. It was as if East and West had met here, not merely through trade, but through art, merging visual traditions separated by thousands of miles. The Buddha of Miran gazed out with eyes painted in shades of blue and gold, colors brought by traders from lands far beyond the Hindu Kush. What power could bind such diverse worlds together? The answer lies in the lifeblood of the Silk Road: exchange. Goods passed from hand to hand, but with them traveled philosophies, languages, and artistic forms. A Roman glass bottle might find its way to a Chinese tomb. An Indian sutra might be copied by a Tibetan monk. A Persian melody might echo in a Chinese palace. Miran, like Naya, was not an isolated oasis. It was a node in a vast network of human creativity. Further west still lay the fabled kingdom of Khotan, the city of jade. For centuries, its rivers yielded the luminous stone the Chinese emperors prized above all else. Legend spoke of spirits who guarded the jade and of brave men who risked their lives to retrieve it from the mountain torrents. Khotan's prosperity rested on this trade, and on its ability to bridge two worlds. From India came Buddhism and Sanskrit learning. From China came silk and Confucian ideals. Khotan stood between them, blending both into a civilization uniquely its own. The chronicles tell us that Khotan was founded by a prince of India and a princess of China, a myth that captures the essence of the city's hybrid identity. In Khotan's markets, one could hear the mingled tongues of traders from Samarkand, Kashgar, and Dunhuang. Gold coins bearing the faces of foreign kings circulated alongside Chinese copper cash. The city's monasteries glowed with the light of butter lamps, their halls filled with chanting monks who studied scriptures in multiple languages. Buddhism transformed Khotan into a spiritual powerhouse. Pilgrims and scholars traveling between India and China often stopped here to rest and teach. The city became famous for its sacred relics and its libraries of palm leaf manuscripts. According to ancient records, Khotan's rulers sponsored the translation of Buddhist texts into Chinese, helping to spread the religion deep into East Asia. Its temples, adorned with silk banners and wall paintings, became sanctuaries of peace amid the shifting sands.
Yet even amid this prosperity, the desert's shadow loomed. The Tarim Basin was a harsh master, and the rivers that sustained its oases were fickle.
When climate shifts or war disrupted trade, these fragile worlds could collapse overnight. In the 9th century, after centuries of flourishing, Khotan too began to decline. Muslim armies from the west pressed into Central Asia, and the Buddhist kingdoms of the Silk Road fell one by one. By the 11th century, Khotan was gone, its temples silent, its treasures buried. The Silk Road's most enduring legacy, however, may lie in the caves of Dunhuang, hundreds of miles east of Khotan, where the sands meet the mountains at the edge of the Gobi. Here, in a cliff face above the Dachuan River, monks began carving sanctuaries in the 4th century CE. Over the next 1,000 years, these caves multiplied into a honeycomb of art, nearly 500 chambers filled with statues, murals, and manuscripts. Each was an offering to the Buddha and a reflection of the world outside. The Dunhuang Caves, also known as the Mogao Grottos, are often called the Library of the Silk Road. Their walls are alive with stories: celestial musicians floating on clouds, merchants crossing deserts, kings offering gifts to holy men. The art captures not only religious devotion, but also the cosmopolitan life of the Silk Road. Figures wear Persian robes, Indian jewelry, and Chinese headdresses. Horses from Central Asia gallop across painted skies. It is as if all the roads and peoples of Eurasia converged in these caverns of light. In one small cave, sealed for nearly 1,000 years, explorers in 1900 found one of the greatest archaeological discoveries of all time, the Dunhuang manuscripts. Tens of thousands of scrolls, paintings, and printed texts lay stacked in a hidden chamber. They included Buddhist sutras, Confucian classics, Taoist scriptures, contracts, poems, medical treatises, and even folk songs. Written in multiple languages, Chinese, Sanskrit, Tibetan, Sogdian, and Uyghur, they revealed the incredible diversity of life along the Silk Road. Through these manuscripts, scholars could hear the voices of ordinary people once again: a merchant's ledger, a monk's prayer, a widow's petition. The caves of Dunhuang thus stand as a time capsule, a window into the golden age of the Silk Road and the civilizations that thrived within its reach. They show us how ideas flowed freely across boundaries, shaping art and belief in ways that still echo today. Without Dunhuang, the story of the Silk Road would only be half told. With it, we glimpse the heartbeat of a world connected long before globalization had a name. Beyond Dunhuang, the road continued westward through the Pamir Mountains, the roof of the world, where traders braved perilous passes to reach the valleys of Bactria and Sogdiana. Here too, hidden civilizations blossomed. The Sogdians, master traders from what is now Uzbekistan and Tajikistan, became the great middlemen of the Silk Road. Their cities, Samarkand, Bukhara, Panjikent, were vibrant centers of commerce and culture. Though not as forgotten as the desert oases, their influence reached every corner of Eurasia. In Chinese records, the word hu often referred to Sogdians, whose caravans carried not only goods but also stories, music, and faiths.
If the Silk Road had a soul, it was plural. Each civilization, Naya, Miran, Khotan, Dunhuang, Sogdia, contributed a different note to its symphony. Together, they created something greater than empire, a living network of humanity. And though sand and silence have buried much of their world, their legacy endures in the art, languages, and spiritual traditions that still shape Asia today. Standing at the edge of the Taklamakan at sunset, one can feel the presence of those vanished peoples. The dunes glow red and gold, and the air hums with the low whistle of eternity. Somewhere beneath the shifting surface lie the wooden tablets of Naya, the painted Buddhas of Miran, the jade of Khotan, and the scrolls of Dunhuang, each a fragment of a mosaic that once stretched from the Pacific to the Mediterranean. The archaeologists who uncovered these treasures knew they were not merely unearthing artifacts, they were reviving voices. Each fragment of pottery, each scrap of silk, each line of faded ink tells of a life once lived, of a dream once pursued. In them we find proof that the Silk Road was never a barren corridor, but a thriving corridor of creativity, one that united humanity's farthest reaches. As the 20th century dawned, Modern explorers like Stein, Sven Hedin, and Paul Pelliot followed in the footsteps of those ancient traders, guided by local nomads who knew the desert's moods. They braved sandstorms and isolation to map the lost cities and recover their treasures. Their discoveries rewrote the history of Asia, revealing that the so-called empty desert was once filled with life, color, and belief. Yet these expeditions also carried a shadow, for in removing relics to distant museums, they took with them pieces of memory that perhaps should have remained where they were born. Today, as scholars and governments seek to preserve and repatriate these artifacts, the Silk Road's legacy continues to raise questions about ownership, identity, and the meaning of cultural heritage. And still the desert watches, patient and eternal. Beneath its surface, countless secrets remain, cities yet to be found, manuscripts yet to be read. The sand both conceal and preserve, erasing and preserving at once. For every Naya uncovered, there may be another still sleeping, waiting for the gentle brush of discovery. The story of the Silk Road's hidden civilizations is far from over. It is written not only in the relics of the past, but also in the living cultures that still trace their ancestry to these ancient worlds. In the faces of Uyghur musicians playing traditional instruments in Kashgar's old streets, in the shimmering silks woven in Suzhou, in the Buddhist chants echoing in Tibetan monasteries, the echoes of Naya, Khotan, and Dunhuang still resound. As night falls over the desert, the stars rise like lanterns above the ancient route. Somewhere out there, beneath the dunes, the forgotten kingdoms sleep, but their dreams still travel the same invisible roads, linking the hearts of people across time.
The Silk Road was never only a line across a map. It was a living organism that breathed through empires and civilizations. Its pulse quickened whenever merchants set out from their cities and faded when kingdoms crumbled into dust. By the first centuries of the Common Era, the ancient world had become a tapestry of interconnected cultures stretching from the Mediterranean to the Pacific. Through this lattice, the treasures of East and West flowed endlessly, silk for gold, jade for glass, spice for silver, and with every transaction came something less tangible, yet far more enduring: belief, imagination, and the human hunger for meaning. When the Han Dynasty tightened its grasp on the Hexi corridor, a new age of expansion began. Caravans set forth not only from China, but from every power that touched the Great Highway: Parthia, Kushan, Bactria, and the Roman world itself. To the west, the Roman Empire stood at the height of its wealth. Its citizens, draped in the shimmering silk of the mysterious East, had no idea that the fabric's journey began thousands of miles away in the mulberry orchards of China. Roman senators forbade the wearing of silk, calling it decadent and un-Roman, yet demand only grew. Gold streamed eastward, ideas drifted back in return. Between these two giants lay the kingdoms that truly shaped the Silk Road's soul: the Sogdians, the Persians, the nomads of the steppe, and the mystics who carried faith across deserts and mountains. The Silk Road was their inheritance, their playground, and their stage. The Sogdian middlemen. If one civilization could be called the heartbeat of the Silk Road, it was Sogdia. Its cities, Samarkand, Bukhara, Panjikent, rose from the fertile valleys between the Zarafshan and Amu Darya rivers. Their merchants became the unrivaled navigators of the routes that wound through Central Asia. To the Chinese, they were known as Hu merchants. To the Persians, they were the children of trade. The Sogdians spoke an Iranian tongue, worshipped a pantheon rooted in Zoroastrianism, and lived by a creed of adaptability. From the 5th to the 8th centuries, Sogdian traders formed colonies in every oasis from Dunhuang to Chang'an. They built temples, married locals, and introduced new customs wherever they settled. Archaeologists have found their letters, fragile scraps of parchment written in a spidery script, telling of prophets and perils, love and longing. In one, a merchant's wife in Dunhuang complains bitterly that her husband has left her without funds while he chases fortune in far-off Samarkand.
Her words, preserved by the dry desert air, reveal a world both alien and familiar. The ache of distance, the uncertainty of survival, the universal cost of ambition. Sogdian art captured this blend of worlds. In the murals of Panjikent, we see feasts of wine and song, caravans guarded by armored riders, and gods striding across skies of blue and gold. The style is neither wholly Persian nor Chinese. It is its own language, born of motion and mixture. Their artisans learned to depict Buddhist themes one moment and Zoroastrian fire altars the next. To be Sogdian was to be fluent in contradiction, to turn diversity into wealth.
Faiths on the march. The Silk Road carried not only goods, but gods. Every belief that touched it took on new forms as it journeyed across continents. Buddhism was among the earliest to travel its length. Originating in India, it spread north through the passes of the Hindu Kush into Bactria and the Tarim Basin. Missionaries and monks followed the caravans, their begging bowls clinking beside the traders' purses. They built monasteries in oasis towns, offering rest to travelers and spreading compassion across borders. By the time that Chinese pilgrim Faxian journeyed west in the 5th century CE, and later Xuanzang in the 7th, the Silk Road had become a string of Buddhist pearls, each monastery a note of learning and translation. In places like Gandhara, where Greek and Indian influences intertwined, the image of the Buddha transformed. He acquired the face of Apollo, the drapery of a Roman statue, and the calm smile of enlightenment. These Greco-Buddhist sculptures would later inspire the art of China, Korea, and Japan. Through the Silk Road, the Buddha became global. But Buddhism did not travel alone. Zoroastrianism, the ancient Persian faith of fire and moral duality, moved eastward with the merchants. Nestorian Christianity, branded heretical by Byzantium, found a new refuge in Persia and beyond. By the 7th century, Nestorian crosses gleamed in the oases of Turfan and even reached the Tang capital. Manichaeism, a religion of light born in Mesopotamia, spread through these same corridors, blending Persian, Christian, and Buddhist elements. It proclaimed that all existence was a struggle between light and darkness, a metaphor perfectly suited to the harsh deserts through which it spread. Along the same routes rode another faith that would transform Asia forever: Islam. After the 7th century, as Arab armies swept across Persia and Central Asia, Islam became both a conqueror and a successor to the Silk Road's pluralism. The old Buddhist and Sogdian cities gradually adopted Arabic script, Persian poetry, and new rhythms of prayer. Yet Islam absorbed as much as it replaced. The turquoise domes of Samarkand, the geometric artistry of Bukhara, the poetry of Rumi, all bear the imprint of older, vanished worlds. The Empire's embrace. Empires saw in the Silk Road both opportunity and danger. Whoever controlled its arteries controlled the wealth of the world. The Kushan Empire, rising from the ruins of the Yuezhi nomads in the 1st century CE, united much of Central Asia and northern India. They built cities like Kapisa and Purashapura, modern-day Peshawar, that glowed with Buddhist art and Hellenistic refinement. The Kushans issued coins with Greek lettering on one side and Indian deities on the other, a perfect emblem of the Silk Road's dual identity.
Farther east, China's Tang dynasty forged what may have been the Silk Road's golden age. Chang'an became the most cosmopolitan city on Earth, its avenues teeming with merchants from Sogdia, Persia, and Arabia. The streets rang with foreign music, its markets overflowed with spices, jewels, and horses. A Tang poet wrote, "In my city, I hear 10,000 tongues." It was not hyperbole, it was the sound of globalization a millennium before the word existed. Yet this prosperity came at a cost. The very openness that made the Tang world rich also made it fragile. Rebellions, wars, and shifting alliances disrupted the roots. When the Abbasid Caliphate rose in the west, the Silk Road bent toward Baghdad, where scholars and traders gathered in the House of Wisdom to translate Greek, Persian, and Indian texts into Arabic. In Baghdad's libraries, the legacies of all the Silk Road civilizations converged, giving birth to the sciences, mathematics, and philosophy that would later reach Europe. The hidden kingdoms of the desert, though long gone, had seeded the intellectual rebirth of humanity. The nomads and the winds of change. But history never stands still. Across the steppes, the nomadic tribes who had long shadowed the caravans began to stir. Turks, Uyghurs, and Mongols moved with the winds, bringing both terror and trade. They were the paradox of the Silk Road, destroyers and connectors at once. The Uyghur Khaganate rose in the 8th century, inheriting the mantle of the steppe from the Göktürks. They became patrons of Buddhist art and literacy, leaving behind manuscripts written in elegant scripts adapted from Sogdian models. In their capital at Karabalgasan, translators worked feverishly to render Sanskrit and Chinese texts into Turkic languages. For a time, the Uyghurs bridged nomadic freedom and settled sophistication, a recurring dream along the Silk Road. Then came the Mongols, thundering out of the steppe in the 13th century under the command of Genghis Khan. To some, they were a scourge. To the Silk Road, they were its most paradoxical guardians. Under Mongol rule, from China to Hungary, a single empire stretched across the heart of Eurasia. The Pax Mongolica reopened ancient routes, ensuring that caravans could move safely across thousands of miles. Silk, porcelain, paper, and gunpowder flowed west. Glass, gems, and medical knowledge flowed east. For a brief, dazzling century, the world was one again. Travelers like Marco Polo marveled at what they saw. In Kublai Khan's court at Xanadu, Venetian merchants and Persian astronomers dined side by side. In Samarkand, the descendants of Sogdian traders served as envoys between East and West. Even as plague and conquest ravaged populations, ideas and technologies leapt farther and faster than ever before. The compass, paper money, and printing, all born along the revived Silk Road, reshaped civilizations on every continent.
Threads of art and knowledge. Every exchange left a mark on the imagination. Chinese artisans absorbed Persian motifs. Islamic architects borrowed Chinese glazes. Musicians blended lutes and flutes into instruments that still echo today. The Silk Road taught humanity to create by combination, not isolation. From the oases came textiles woven with secret dyes that shimmered between crimson and gold. From Persia came glass that caught the desert light like captured water. From India came stories, the Jataka tales, the Panchatantra, that wandered west to become Aesop's fables. And from the Mediterranean returned astronomical charts, medicines, and philosophies that enriched Asia's scholars. The road was less a conduit of things than of curiosity itself. At Dunung, artists painted foreign kings offering silk to the Buddha. In Samarkand, calligraphers copied Chinese classics in Arabic script. The boundaries between cultures blurred until they ceased to matter. The Silk Road's hidden civilizations had achieved a quiet miracle. They had made diversity a foundation, not a fracture. The quiet decline. But no empire lasts forever. The sea routes, once perilous and slow, grew safer with the rise of maritime technology. By the 15th century, ships from Venice, Arabia, and China could carry goods faster than any caravan. The Silk Road began to fade, its oases dwindling into memory. Wars closed the passes, deserts advanced, rivers shifted. The once great caravanserais became nests for owls. The merchants who had bound the continents together disappeared, leaving behind ghost towns and legends. Yet decline did not mean disappearance. The Silk Road retreated into the bloodstream of history, invisible but vital. The civilizations it had nurtured scattered their seeds across the world, into languages, beliefs, and art forms that still breathe in the present. Legacy of connection. Today, as archaeologists brush the sand from broken frescoes and scholars decipher half-erased scripts, we begin to understand what those hidden kingdoms achieved. They prove that connection is stronger than conquest,
that culture thrives not in isolation, but in meeting. In the faces carved at Muran, the eyes of painted Buddhas at Hotan, the laughter of Sogdian feasts, we recognize ourselves, restless travelers in search of meaning. The Silk Road's civilizations remind us that identity is a mosaic, each piece borrowed and reshaped, yet together forming a pattern that endures. If one stands at sunrise in the ruins of Samarkand, the domes still glimmer turquoise against the pale sky. Birds circle above the Registan and the wind smells faintly of dust and roses. It is easy to imagine the distant echo of camel bells, the murmur of a caravan preparing to depart. The road is gone, but the spirit remains. The Silk Road was not merely a passage of commerce, it was the first draft of globalization, the earliest whisper of a connected world. Its hidden civilizations, though long vanished, built the bridges across which our modern humanity still walks.
Across the sprawling deserts, mountain ranges, and river valleys of Eurasia, the Silk Road continued to evolve through the centuries, shaping the destiny of countless civilizations. As caravans pressed onward under the relentless sun and the glittering stars, the Silk Road became more than a trade network. It was the very bloodstream of the ancient world, pulsing with life, belief, and innovation. In this part of the journey, we travel deeper into the later stages of the Silk Road, a time when empires clashed for dominance, new religions took root, and hidden kingdoms rose and fell in the shadow of history. When the Tang dynasty came to power in the 7th century, China once again became the beating heart of Silk Road commerce. Chang'an, the imperial capital, pulsed with the rhythm of foreign voices, spices, and silks. Traders from Persia, India, Arabia, and Byzantium gathered beneath its gates. The Tang emperors, eager to maintain influence across the western regions, forged alliances with the city-states of Central Asia, Samarkand, Bukhara, and Kashgar, all jewels of the Silk Road's crown. Tang soldiers protected caravans, and envoys brought back rare gems, horses, and manuscripts filled with new ideas. This golden age of connectivity allowed Buddhist monks, scholars, and artisans to travel safely from one end of Asia to the other, spreading art and faith along the way. The Buddhist pilgrim Zhuangzong's legendary journey in the 7th century exemplified the cultural vigor of this era. Traveling from Chang'an, across the Gobi Desert, and over the Pamir Mountains to India, Zhuangzong carried back with him sacred texts and wisdom that would redefine Chinese Buddhism. His route followed many of the same caravan trails used by merchants, and the records of his travels revealed the names of cities that had already begun to fade into myth, places like Kucha, Turpan, and Hotan. These were once thriving oases that blended Indian, Persian, and Chinese cultures into a mosaic of languages, scripts, and artistic forms. Archaeologists centuries later would uncover murals depicting musicians, dancers, and merchants in scenes that echoed the cosmopolitan life of those Silk Road kingdoms. Kucha, one of the most celebrated Buddhist centers on the northern route of the Silk Road, became a meeting point for monks, translators, and artists. The caves at Kizil, carved into the cliffs, housed vibrant murals showing scenes from the Jataka tales and depictions of Buddha in richly adorned robes. These paintings combined Greco-Indian artistic traditions with Chinese aesthetics, forming a distinct Silk Road style that spoke of cultural fusion. But the glory of Kucha, like many cities along the trade routes, was fleeting. Invasions, shifting sands, and the rise of competing powers eventually silenced its once bustling streets. Farther west, Samarkand and Bukhara emerged as the beating heart of Central Asia's urban splendor. Under the rule of the Sogdians, these cities became legendary for their wealth and sophistication. The Sogdians were the master traders of the Silk Road, their language serving as the lingua franca of commerce from China to Byzantium. They dealt not only in silk, but in horses, slaves, glassware, and even ideas. Their merchant caravans connected the farthest corners of the known world, ensuring that a single silk thread from China
might end up as a royal robe in Constantinople. In their art, coins, and architecture, one can trace the story of the Silk Road's heartbeat, a constant rhythm of exchange and transformation.
But prosperity often attracts conquest. When the Arab Caliphate expanded into Central Asia in the 8th century, the Silk Road experienced another transformation. Islam began to spread along the trade routes, joining the chorus of religions that already filled the desert air. The Sogdian cities gradually adopted Islamic culture, blending it with Persian traditions to create a new hybrid civilization. Mosques replaced Buddhist stupas, and the call to prayer echoed through the bazaars that had once been filled with chants of Sanskrit and Chinese. Yet, even as faiths changed, the essence of the Silk Road endured: the ceaseless exchange of culture, knowledge, and humanity. The Abbasid Caliphate, centered in Baghdad, became another epicenter of Silk Road civilization. Baghdad's House of Wisdom drew scholars from across Asia and Europe who translated Greek, Persian, and Indian texts into Arabic. The Silk Road's caravans didn't just bring material goods, they carried the intellectual foundations of science, mathematics, and medicine. Paper, invented in China, reached the Islamic world through these routes and revolutionized record-keeping and scholarship. Soon, the art of papermaking spread to the West, ultimately shaping the Renaissance centuries later. By the 9th and 10th centuries, the Silk Road had woven an invisible web connecting every major civilization of the Old World. But this web was fragile. With the rise of new powers, the balance of trade shifted. The Tibetan Empire, for instance, rose to prominence, asserting control over highland routes and challenging the Tang dynasty for dominance in the western regions. Meanwhile, nomadic groups such as the Uyghurs and Turks began to carve out their own kingdoms, building new centers of commerce and culture. The Uyghur Khaganate, flourishing between the 8th and 9th centuries, established a network of cities across the Turan Basin. They adopted Manichaeism, a religion born in Persia that blended Zoroastrian, Christian, and Buddhist beliefs. Their manuscripts preserved in the dry sands of Turpan reveal a world in transition, one where merchants prayed to deities of many origins and where the lines between East and West blurred into a single tapestry. Archaeological finds from Turpan, including murals, textiles, and ancient contracts written on palm leaves, testify to a society deeply intertwined with the pulse of Silk Road trade. As time flowed onward, the Silk Road saw its fortunes wax and wane with the rise and fall of empires. The Tang dynasty's decline in the 9th century left the western routes vulnerable. Local powers like the Karakhanids and the Ghaznavids filled the void, each contributing their own chapter to the Silk Road saga. The Karakhanids converted to Islam, transforming the cultural landscape of Central Asia. Under their rule, cities such as Kashgar and Balasagun became thriving centers of Islamic learning. Mosques and madrasas stood alongside markets filled with Chinese silks and Indian spices. The blending of Islamic, Turkic, and Chinese traditions created a new cultural horizon that would shape the medieval world. Yet, in the quiet deserts and forgotten oases, many ancient Silk Road cities began to vanish. The once vibrant city of Lulan had long been buried under layers of sand. Others, like Nia and Moran, followed the same fate. The rivers that had sustained them changed course, and the dunes swallowed their streets. By the time of the 11th century, many travelers reported seeing only ruins where kingdoms once stood. Still, these silent relics continued to whisper stories of their glory to those who dared to listen. The rise of the Mongol Empire in the 13th century would bring a dramatic transformation to the Silk Road's destiny. Under Genghis Khan and his successors, nearly the entire route fell under a single political authority for the first time in history. The Mongol Peace, or Pax Mongolica, ushered in an era of unprecedented safety and stability. Caravans once again moved freely between East and West, and trade reached heights unseen since the Tang dynasty. Cities like Samarkand and Bukhara flourished anew under Mongol and later Timurid patronage, adorned with grand architecture that reflected their revived wealth. Marco Polo's journey in the late 13th century immortalized this rebirth.
Traveling from Venice to China, he crossed deserts, mountains, and seas, documenting the marvels of lands few Europeans had ever seen. His descriptions of Kublai Khan's court in Khan Malik, modern Beijing, painted a vivid picture of the Silk Road's farthest reaches. Through his words, the West awakened to the wonders of the East, its art, its spices, and its boundless treasures. Although many doubted the truth of his tales, the Silk Road's legend became indelibly written into the world's imagination. But the road's glory would not last forever. As the Mongol Empire fractured, the once secure routes became perilous again. Bandits, warring factions, and shifting trade patterns gradually eroded the Silk Road's vitality. The rise of maritime trade routes in the 15th century, spurred by the Age of Exploration, offered faster, safer passages for goods between Asia and Europe. Ships now carried silk, porcelain, and spices across oceans instead of deserts. The ancient land routes, once the arteries of global civilization, began to fade into memory. And yet, even in decline, the Silk Road's influence remained immortal. The ideas that had traveled its dusty trails, Buddhism, Islam, mathematics, astronomy, paper, and printing had already reshaped human history. The ruins of cities like Samarkand, Kucha, and Dunhuang stood as timeless witnesses to an age when trade was not merely commerce, but a conversation between worlds. The Silk Road story was never about the silk alone. It was about the boundless human spirit, curious, adaptive, and unyielding.
The Silk Road, once a living artery of human exchange, eventually disappeared beneath the shifting sands and the changing tides of empire. But even as its bustling caravan trails grew silent, its legacy continued to ripple through the centuries, shaping the modern world in ways both subtle and profound. The story of the Silk Road did not end when the merchants stopped traveling or when the maps were redrawn. Rather, it transformed, passing from a physical network of trade into an invisible force that connected minds, cultures, and civilizations. In this final part of our journey, we travel through time once more, tracing how explorers, archaeologists, and dreamers unearthed the hidden civilizations that once thrived along the Silk Road, and how their discoveries reignited a fascination with humanity's oldest bridges of connection. When the world of the 19th century turned its eyes toward Central Asia, few could imagine what lay beneath its deserts and ruins. Western scholars and explorers had long been intrigued by the ancient accounts of Marco Polo and the stories of travelers who spoke of lost cities buried by time. Yet the true rediscovery of the Silk Road began not with armies or merchants, but with archaeologists armed with notebooks, brushes, and boundless curiosity. It was a new kind of exploration, one that sought to uncover history rather than conquer it. Among the first to embark on this quest was the British-Hungarian archaeologist Sir Aurel Stein. Between 1900 and 1916, Stein led multiple expeditions across the deserts of western China, following the whispers of ancient maps and the faint outlines of forgotten cities. His greatest discovery came at the edge of the Taklamakan Desert, in a small cave near the oasis town of Dunhuang. There, hidden behind a sealed wall, he found a treasure unlike any other, a library cave filled with tens of thousands of manuscripts, paintings, and scrolls. The Dunhuang manuscripts, dating back more than 1,000 years, revealed a world that had long been lost. They contained Buddhist sutras, trade documents, astronomical charts, medical texts, and even personal letters, all preserved by the dry desert air. In their delicate fibers lay the voices of monks, merchants, and artists who once walked the Silk Road. Among them were writings in Chinese, Tibetan, Sanskrit, Sogdian, and even Hebrew, evidence of a world so diverse that it defied the boundaries of nation and faith. Stein's discovery opened a window into the spiritual and cultural heartbeat of the Silk Road, transforming our understanding of how deeply interconnected ancient civilizations truly were. Around the same time, other explorers, such as the French sinologist Paul Pelliot and the Japanese archaeologist Otani Kozui, set out on their own Silk Road expeditions. They uncovered ruins at Lowland, Muran, and Turpan, where murals, statues, and fragments of manuscripts lay half buried in the sand.
Each discovery told a story of exchange, of how Persian motifs found their way into Chinese temples, how Indian deities were depicted with Hellenistic grace, and how languages merged to create new entirely scripts and symbols. The sands of Central Asia had preserved what history had forgotten, that the Silk Road was not just a route of commerce, but a living testament to the boundless creativity of human culture.
The city of Lulan, once a thriving hub near the now-dry Lopner Lake, offered one of the most haunting examples of this lost world. When Stein uncovered its remnants, he found fragments of wooden tablets inscribed with Chinese characters, pieces of silk fabric, and the remains of a woman whose face was still eerily preserved after 2 millennia. Dubbed the Beauty of Lulan, her existence testified to the harsh but remarkable life that once thrived in these arid lands. She was neither entirely Asian nor European. Her features were a blend of both, symbolizing the very essence of the Silk Road, a meeting place of worlds. In the deserts of the Tarim Basin, the discoveries of mummies further deepen the mystery. Their well-preserved clothing, woven from fine wool and adorned with intricate patterns, revealed that these people were skilled artisans who had mastered textile techniques long before the arrival of Chinese silk. The Tarim mummies, with their Indo-European features, suggested that ancient migrations and exchanges across Eurasia were far older and more complex than previously thought. These finds forced historians to rewrite the early chapters of human movement and contact across the continent. But while explorers like Stein, Pelliot, and Sven Hedin brought the Silk Road's hidden civilizations to light, their expeditions were not without controversy. Many of the artifacts they collected were shipped to museums in Europe and Japan, leaving local communities stripped of their cultural heritage. The treasures of Dunhuang now reside in London, Paris, and Tokyo, far from the sands that once protected them. Modern scholars have since debated the ethics of these removals, asking whether the Silk Road's spirit of exchange can justify the taking of its artifacts. Yet, for better or worse, these discoveries ensured that the Silk Road would never again fade into total obscurity. In the decades that followed, the study of the Silk Road blossomed into an academic and cultural movement. New technologies, from satellite imaging to DNA analysis, began to reveal patterns invisible to earlier generations. Archaeologists discovered traces of ancient irrigation systems beneath the sands, proving that the deserts of Central Asia were once fertile lands dotted with farms and gardens. Others unearthed remnants of Buddhist stupas and Zoroastrian temples, sometimes standing side by side, suggesting that the Silk Road was as much a spiritual highway as a commercial one. Meanwhile, linguists and historians worked tirelessly to decipher the languages of the Silk Road, Sogdian, Tocharian, and Bactrian, each one a key to unlocking the complex web of communication that once bound the continent together. The manuscripts from Turpan, written in a variety of tongues, revealed contracts between traders, religious hymns, and love letters exchanged across borders. These documents painted a vivid portrait of daily life, the haggling of merchants, the prayers of travelers, and the laughter of children in distant bazaars. Through these fragments, the humanity of the Silk Road came alive once more. As the 20th century progressed, modern nations began to reclaim their Silk Road heritage. China, with its vast western provinces of Xinjiang and Gansu, launched large-scale archaeological projects to protect and preserve its ancient sites. The Mogao caves at Dunhuang, once looted and forgotten, were restored and declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Their painted walls, depicting celestial musicians, caravan scenes, and heavenly Buddhas, now draw scholars and visitors from across the world. Similarly, in Uzbekistan, the cities of Samarkand and Bukhara were revived as living museums, their turquoise domes and mosaics shimmering once more beneath the Central Asian sun. The modern revival of the Silk Road was not limited to archaeology and heritage. It also became a symbol of unity in an increasingly divided world. In the late 20th and early 21st centuries, governments began to speak once more of reviving the Silk Road, not as a route for camels, but as a metaphor for international cooperation.
Roads, railways, and digital highways began to trace paths eerily similar to those of the ancient caravans. The idea that the Silk Road could again link East and West, this time through trade, technology, and diplomacy, captured the global imagination. But even beyond politics, the Silk Road's greatest legacy lies in its enduring idea that the exchange of cultures enriches humanity. The foods we eat, the fabrics we wear, the ideas we cherish all bear traces of the Silk Road. From the introduction of noodles in Italy to the spread of papermaking in Europe, from the transmission of astronomy from Persia to China, the threads of influence continue to shape our modern world. The Silk Road reminds us that civilizations flourish not in isolation, but through dialogue. In recent years, scientists and conservationists have also looked to the Silk Road for lessons about sustainability and adaptation. The ancient kingdoms that once thrived along its routes understood how to survive in extreme environments. They harnessed scarce water resources, built windbreaks against desert storms, and traded not just goods, but survival strategies. Their ruins remind us that progress is fragile, and that the balance between nature and civilization is easily lost. The same deserts that once swallowed Lolan could one day challenge modern societies facing their own environmental crises. Culturally, the Silk Road's influence echoes in music, art, and storytelling. From the haunting melodies of the Uyghur Dutar to the Persian epics of Samarkand, from Chinese silk paintings to Roman glasswork, the aesthetic dialogues of the Silk Road continue to inspire artists today. Museums across the world now curate exhibitions that celebrate this shared heritage, reminding audiences that beauty itself was once a traded good, shaped by countless hands across continents. As we stand in the 21st century, satellites now map the very routes that camels once crossed. Scientists use LiDAR to reveal buried cities beneath the sands. Artificial intelligence analyzes ancient manuscripts, reconstructing languages lost for over 1,000 years. The Silk Road, it seems, is being reborn, not as a trail of trade, but as a digital bridge between past and present. Each discovery reminds us that humanity's thirst for connection remains unchanged. And yet, there is a quiet, poetic truth in the way the Silk Road has come full circle. What began as a journey of merchants and monks has become a symbol of global unity. The same curiosity that drove Xuanzang across the deserts, that inspired Marco Polo to sail into the unknown, now fuels scientists and dreamers seeking to understand the fabric of our shared history. Beneath every ruin and beneath every grain of sand lies a story, not just of ancient civilizations, but of the enduring human desire to reach beyond borders.
The Silk Road's hidden civilizations may have vanished long ago, but they live on in the cultural DNA of our modern world. Their art, their technology, and their philosophies continue to influence us in ways we may never fully recognize. They remind us that humanity's greatest achievements are born not from conquest, but from connection. As the winds sweep across the deserts of Central Asia, they whisper the same stories once told by merchants at the fireside. Stories of courage, curiosity, and coexistence. The dunes may shift, but the echoes of the Silk Road remain eternal. In the end, to unearth the Silk Road's hidden civilizations is to rediscover ourselves, the shared heritage that binds East and West, past and present, into one unbroken human journey. And so, as the sun sets over the ruins of Samarkand and the stars rise above the Taklamakan, the Silk Road lives again, not as a forgotten route through the sands, but as a living memory in the heart of every culture it once touched. For as long as humanity dreams of connection, the Silk Road will never truly fade.